same page as you, man. I like that.
Red, let me say it one time. Let me hit him with the welcome to the late session.
Is everybody in? Hit it, Skilbo.
Welcome to the late sesh. What's going on, everybody?
Where are we at, Skilbo?
The Monday night. It's 11 p.m. I also see that we're trying to throw curveballs out of the gate, and I do want to welcome Raptor Grow.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the welcome. Even before I was really getting into like wanting to teach people, I was learning myself, and it was fun to watch Michigan Grow Bros, and yeah, that's when I start. I think you guys were one of the first shows that I started getting into, among other ones, and yeah, it was really cool. Embracing organics. That embracing organics eventually led me to you guys, but before that, I got into that was my friend Cannabis Organum's shows. So he was doing like just like what you guys do, like a late night session kind of thing. And he would just do it after work. He would come home. He was in charge of like community supported agriculture. So he helped run like little gardens, and he helped do all that. And he helped teach me all of the sustainable side in the beginning. And then it was because of him that he was like, hey, just look up what you have going on locally. And I did. And that eventually led me to like, hey, my college that my community college that my brother went to and started off with, they started going into the sustainable side. When I first started looking into them, nothing. It was all thanks to another teacher that started up the sustainable. They switched it from horticulture to sustainable horticulture, and that happened right away. So I signed up as soon as I found out. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, guys. Yeah, go ahead, man. Toke up.
No,
I'm
gonna
be doing
Cheers,
the same.
everybody. Time to fire one up. Skilbo says, welcome to the late sesh.
We should try to do some kind of like actual introduction to let
that's
people...
what I'm gonna get there because since we're on Behind the Veil and Polarity Science, I don't want them thinking we're on the late sesh.
Oh yeah.
Skilbo came in with he tells me in the background right before I hit the button. He goes, let me hit him with the welcome to the late sesh, because I always do it for the late, because I've been taking it over for the late sesh. I thought he was gonna do is everybody in and like start off
do it the other way, baby.
And he says welcome to the late session. I was like, oh no.
Is everybody in?
And then I forgot what day. And then he said something about Monday nights, and I'm like, shit, it's Monday. and he tripped me out, man. I've had way too much RSO. Shout out to Jason Eyestone in chat. He's talking about his wisdom teeth. I feel for your brother, right here with you.
You guys are the fraternal order of the fang.
Yeah. I got jagged ground down teeth. So I'm going through, dude. They shot me so many little bunk. It's been 3 or 4 days, and I'm still feeling it, man. I've been doing I'm at like a half a gram RSO already for the day, pretty much. Like I need to dose 1/10 a gram just about every 3-4 hours. Jason, if you have some RSO laying around, dude, hit it. If you don't have any RSO laying around, man, you're in the area, I believe. See me at Hash Bash. I got a couple of these tubes for you. Hopefully I got enough to get me through. I'll make more, but I got a couple of those for you. If not, guys, this RSO has been a lifesaver. I've got a little baggie in front of me with some ibuprofen in it, because a couple ibuprofen every day has really been helping with just basic fucking like nerve pain. You know what I mean? Not too bad. So fuck it, a little ibuprofen, because I don't take a lot of RSO. You know, I get a little bit sleepy, a little bit groggy, a little bit stoned. You know, what you got, Skilbo?
Forkfuls, my friend. No, I don't take a lot of RSO.
Sometimes it is forkfuls, man. But so I've been laying off of the ibuprofen because I'm having to up my dosage, because they went in and actually did the procedure, which was grind out the top of the tooth and do the thing. You know what I mean? And I'm needing like 3 to 4 ibuprofen. I need like 600 milligrams of the stuff to kill the nerve pain, whatever. Now, I was starting noticing that a tolerance was getting built up to 4 to 600 milligrams. And I don't want to be having to take 10 of these things a day. You know, I don't want to get close to that do not exceed limit, whatever it is, even if it's safe. I don't care. I don't want to get there. The cannabis oil, I've been bumping up my dosage and it's been working like way better than ibuprofen. Now here's another thing. I am noticing a tolerance build up faster than ibuprofen. That's why I'm taking I'm like half a gram RSO, and I've only been on it for like 3 days. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing how fast the tolerance builds up, because I just have to it's almost like the pain starts kicking in a little bit quicker. So Jason, I'll give you a couple of these wisdom teeth. At least you already got them out. Surgery, it sounds like you're done. So hopefully you just have to like bear through the next couple of days. I got about a month worth of mouth work ahead of me. So it'd be nightmarish.
That is one point.
It's just headaches, dude. Just constant fucking headaches.
The RSO and the cannabis, actually, at least from a lot of my patients, tell me it'll make the medicine more effective if you do have to take it. So you'll be taking less of it.
Dude, that was the thing. I broke down and took 2 ibuprofen yesterday because the RSO, man, was just not getting there. You know what I mean? And so I took 2 more just because I wasn't wanting to go through my whole fucking syringe of the stuff, you know? I took 2, and I was like, oh, okay, I only needed to take, maybe I could have even taken 1, you know? And that's if I have a migraine, a really bad migraine, I'll take like 1 ibuprofen sometimes. You know, I really try not to take the shit that often, but it is an effective pain reliever. You know, it's, unfortunately,
it's an anti-inflammatory. So
yes.
That's what's going on.
Yes.
Painted Lady makes a point though. She says, hell no, terrible for your liver. And that's one thing, is it does raise the enzyme levels in your liver, and it can have long-lasting effects, especially if you get into the point where you're trying to use it as like a daily routine, where you're taking, every, 6 to 8 hours, and you're up around 800 milligrams. It's really going to fuck you in the long run. So
yeah. Especially if you're not just taking the Motrin 800, right? That's 1 capsule. Now you're taking 4 200 milligram, and those things have a coating and all kinds of other shit. You're taking more of the stuff. It's not just a Motrin 800. But anyways, joining us this evening, we have Raptor. And from my understanding, Raptor, what were you saying? You're saying majoring in microbiology, was it? And then minoring in horticulture and sustainable horticulture.
I'm actually crazy enough to be trying a double major. We'll see how far that goes. But I have been I started up with microbiology all before, and that was after my interest in biochemistry, actually. And I got uprooted from my chemistry class. I'm still taking chemistry because that's part of my microbio.
Interesting.
But a teacher came from biotechnology, and they were teaching that. So I have a certification in that. And then that's what led me more into microbiology. So I have all these like side interests that I started off with, and it's all actually thanks to my family that allowed me to figure stuff out. First, I had no clue, and then because they made the sacrifices that they did, allowed me to realize, hey, I've always actually been super interested in science, but I just didn't I didn't take math seriously at the time. I am now, because I need that. But yeah, it's all thanks to them. So first thing foremost, I always try to give a shout out to my family that did all the sacrifices that they did. I'm actually a first generation born in this country. So that's the reason I push myself so hard and try to go above and beyond for myself, is because they built the road for me to even make those steps. Yeah, microbiology and sustainable horticulture. I'm just actually going to be getting my associates in the sustainable horticulture. I'm already done with all that stuff. I just need the prerequisites. And yeah, I'm just kind of sidebarring into microbio. And it's funny how integrated horticulture and microbiology like really get into each other.
And to mycology.
Oh, I totally agree.
Well, that goes, you need microbio background to get into mycology. And that's actually what really got me even more interested. All those things I learned for my biotechnology background, it goes right into mycology. I was reading all the mycology books and I'm like, I already was trained in this. So when people hear me talk about agar and all that stuff, like that I started first on agar, they're like, whoa, that's pretty advanced. And I was like, if you can make Jello, you're good. People make these things, they think it's more complicated than it is. And I was there too. And if you could just back off a little bit and try to simplify it into steps 1, 2, and 3, like that's what really helped me understand everything a lot more. And because I went into biotechnology, that's what taught me how to try to simplify, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're teaching technicians that are making medicines and growing all these different things. Like one of the greatest breakthroughs in biotech was the fact that we actually genetically modified. I know it's a big no-no word, but there's some good that can come out of it. We genetically modified a bacteria to actually produce insulin. So before this, we were getting insulin out of cows and pigs and everything like that. And that has its own limitations, and that goes into like factory farming, which the less we can go into that, the better. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for biotech. Just the fact that it goes into farming, it goes into medicine, it goes into even cosmetics, all that stuff. Like it's so funny that no one thinks like, oh, Sephora, biotechnology. Like, but yeah, they have to test all those things and make sure it's safe for everyone.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So you said something interesting. You said it's about demystifying this and trying to simplify things and think about it in steps. And I can only speak for myself when I say this, but as someone who has been a long time enjoyer of mycology, and a latecomer to horticulture myself, I think of it in reverse terms. I don't have a big background in science or microbiology or anything else. I was one of those stupid people that took a bunch of humanities and shit. So I'm really, really cool and conversant in things, but I'm not very smart. So I learned how to like grow plants from watching YouTube and talking to other growers and stuff. So when I read high science things, sometimes I get like excited because I'm like, oh, I know what that word is, man. I get that. So,
Yeah, it's, I think everyone has their strengths, and just because you don't understand science initially doesn't mean that with time it can be simplified. The biggest problem I see with academia in general and science community, which is directly tied into academia, is they use all these big words and they have to speak a certain way because that's just the language of academics, but that builds a barrier. So that's why I say, let's just take a step back and remember that we're talking to people that this isn't what they do every day. They don't get paid to do this. I completely agree with you. Yeah, there's people that have to like look at the smallest step and then go up from there. And that's what I really always try to keep that in mind. Hey, I'm just talking to people that they're interested in this enough to even have a conversation. So meet them. I get this from Genetic Memory Farms, who learned this from one of his friends. Meet people where they're at. So that's why I say I have to step back. There's times when I was first going on lives, or I was talking about pretty complicated stuff. And then I just, if there were crickets, they would be chirping, where it's just people are like, whoa, like they have to decompress it all. And it's like, well, I could just decompress it from the first place. Why am I making them go an extra step? I want them to learn.
So what I would say to this is that I would say that half of the people that are listening to this would be the other half of the people that are actually listening to this. So if your significant other, Kevin, is in the realm of hearing the sound of our voice right now, they're probably nodding vigorously like, yep, I sometimes get the show, but I don't get any of the jargon that you guys use. And it's kind of, it's not intentional gatekeeping, but I find that once people do learn the terminology, they can really, really, get stuck in it. And that's a problem. We have to make this shit accessible. I like to joke around and say that none of us sprung from the womb knowing how to cultivate anything. So, you said you have to meet people where they are. I believe you have to communicate in a way that is understood by the listener rather than just the speaker.
Yeah. And I completely agree with the fact that academia had to talk a certain way just because there was no way to explain any of this in any other way. Like, the reason we use Latin for describing species is because for one plant, there could be 12 different names for that plant, and in different languages too. That the different languages even adds even more. In one language, you can have 12 different names for that one plant. So you really do need that stuff. And the reason the scientific community used Latin was because no one was speaking it. They were
I think
using
it's also because Latin is, a very old language that's been around for a long time, and that it was the language of religion, and who used to run the schools and everything, who were the patrons for that religion was. So therefore, Latin is the language of education, and it's only been probably less than 120 years that it stopped being taught in American schools. So,
yeah, that's been one of my biggest barriers. Like right now, I'm taking a California plant natives class. I live in California, in case anyone hasn't heard of me before or my background. Yeah, it's been awesome to learn about all the plants that I grew up in this forest. This forest behind me is actually the northern forest. This isn't. I really need to take a picture of where I live, because it's a beautiful forest of coast live oaks and sycamores, really cool plants that I grew up around them, and it helped me fall in love with nature. And it really that was the beginning of my curiosity. What are all these plants around me? I didn't get to learn that until I started taking classes like these.
Did you take that photo that you're
sitting amongst? This is this is the redwoods.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. That's like the one place cool, I want to go before I go, man, is I want to see the redwoods so bad.
Me too, man.
I was watching a really cool thing on mushrooms the other day, and this guy was walking through the Pacific Northwest. He was showing all these different kinds, and there's turkey tail and shit. And he was showing these ones that looked like little like gumdrops, and they were really, really bright yellow. And it was just like, man, I've never seen anything like that. And he's like, oh, these are super really, common here in the Pacific Northwest woods. And I think about Michigan woods, and, it's like, it's just amazing how diversified plant life is by, just geography.
We have some redwoods here in Michigan. They were, it's a native tree, but
they were brought here in the 1940s. I went and I read up on that bullshit, and it was like somebody went and got them from California, and they brought them to Michigan, and they planted them in the 1940s.
No, we had old growth. We had old growth sequoia, and redwood. I don't know about the bringing them back, but I think that's how they brought them back. But they farmed them all out, because you can find some large, like incredibly large ones, larger than a car. I would say they're probably big. So they'd have to be a couple hundred years old, right?
I do have to say this. JMB says some redwoods are older than dinosaurs. I'm like, damn, the dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. Wait a minute, hold on. Unless we're talking about like chickens and shit.
That old? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. I really don't know.
I need to read up on it a little more, but plants definitely came before
the dinosaurs.
Yeah. What the thing? We're not drilling when we get oil. we're not drilling up dinosaurs like that old adage. It's even before that. It's from the Carboniferous era, and it's named that for all of the trees that were around to absorb all the carbon, put it into a structure that we call a tree, and then what do? They break down, they fall on the floor, break down, make soil. All that gets covered over millions of years and then compressed, and we got oil. We got petroleum.
It's not dinosaurs. I was telling Becca not too long ago that it was dinosaurs. We were driving
the
past
Simpsons
them,
again.
Yeah, well, we were driving past them like.
I'm sure there's some dinosaurs mixed in. You know, they fall into the tar
they're pulling
pits.
dinosaurs out of the ground.
Like a dinosaur bouillon cube or something.
Yeah,
there's some fracking towers out by our property in the Brooklyn, Michigan area, and you see them here and there everywhere. But the stuff's old, man. It's coming back. I didn't realize that it was that. I mean, it makes sense, right? That only makes sense. So a redwood, if a redwood is the size of in diameter of a house, how old is them? Is that tree itself like a couple thousand years old?
it's definitely more than a couple thousand years old.
More than a couple thousand years old.
Yeah. I'll have to look up the oldest one. There's even a specific name that's in the redwoods, but yeah, let me do that. And actually,
does it go back to prehistoric times? That's incredible if it does.
The oil that I was talking about for sure, but I haven't looked up the redwoods to the background on it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give the wrong answer.
But it sounds like the species was around.
I think the oldest tree that's alive is like 7,000 years old, and it's like a Joshua tree that's some hidden place in California or something like that. But it's only like 7,000 years old.
Only like
I say only, but it's
that's the lifespan of a tree, man.
I think it's like a bristle cone pine or something. I don't know.
That's a rooted tree, right? That's not like a hand-me-down bonsai type thing.
No, that's a tree that's
in handed.
No.
I wonder how long that goes back.
2,000 to 35,000 is what they're saying for the oldest redwood, California.
35,000.
So that's why I didn't want to say like that goes back to the dinosaurs. The species. Okay, the species itself. Okay, but the oldest tree. I don't think. Just because we were cutting them down, maybe there was one even older.
Right, we don't even know.
If you actually look at the lumberjack pictures, as far as old as it gets,
so sad.
It's huge. Yeah,
they'll have like a whole
I feel bad. Yeah,
horses hooked up to it, and it's just like my mouth hits the floor, and I just think like, oh my god, somebody made that into a fucking table. And then that's been destroyed for however many years now, and this beautiful tree is just gone.
I'm curious if that has anything to do with how if you listen to like Graham Hancock talk, or he talks about like this current human civilization that we kind of have might go back like 35,000 years, something like that. And then prior to that, there was another advanced civilization that may have been like knocked back because of these whatever cataclysmic events happened somewhere around 30 to 35,000 years ago. I'm curious if the reason that this oldest tree would be 35,000 years old because of the cataclysmic event. Maybe had that cataclysmic event not have occurred, if some of these trees would potentially be 100,000 years old.
Now you're talking about a 35,000-year-old Tunguska effect. Interesting.
Sure.
Who the hell came to Polarity Science thinking it was going to be history class this evening? Surprise,
man. Trees.
Trees,
yeah,
man. Trees.
I love trees. Like I said, I grew up, I actually did a live Instagram live recently because I was in the protected wilderness area that I live right next to it. So I could just literally walk 5 minutes and then I'm into that protected forest. and it's so awesome. I grew up just walking around in there, and to actually take a California plant native identification course and start to understand the living things that have been watching me grow up, like it's really cool. And another thing I wanted to add with one of the things that really got me into gardening was that I have a couple guava trees in my backyard. Those guava trees were planted by my great grandfather, and they started to not look that great. So that's one of the things that got me more interested in it. And man, now they're pushing out some a couple dozen guavas are up there like on this tree, and it's awesome to see it recovered.
So
And I haven't put any it took about 2 years for me to get it right, and it was just more consistent deep watering and not drip irrigation. Drip irrigation, it's just going to make fibrous roots go on the top soil, and they need to go deeper. So just understanding how to water, and when you water your trees, so anyone knows your fruit trees or whatever, water to where they are, the tree line itself, the actual boundary, because that's the tip of the roots, basically. You don't want to water the trunk, you want to water the roots system.
As above, so below is where the root zone is. It mimics.
Yeah. And it blew me away. I was like, that's so crazy that it directly reflects it.
Yeah. When I learned that about trees, I was pretty blown away. Yeah. That's like I had one of these like epiphanies, like one of those like, oh, it's almost there's a little synergy there between the above and below, the balance as it balances itself out. Yeah.
Part of the reason it got balanced was because I haven't even been fertilizing it really, and I've just been putting in mulch on top. So that's why it took a little while. And then I had to learn how to water. I didn't know any of this stuff. And then I still need to prune everything in my backyard. I've been scared to death to prune those trees because it's a legacy plant to me. It means more than just, oh, I have guavas in my backyard. That's cool. But once I understood who, like my family told me when we moved in here, what happened, they planted that tree as like a gift. And another thing that's done in another culture, I can't remember the specific Asian culture, but they use citrus trees, the citrus tree called the kumquat. And we got that in our backyard too. I've been slowly mending it back to health. It wasn't put in the greatest of places, but yeah, all these trees mean a lot more to specific people, and especially a perennial plant. Like I'm making sure that is going to be taken care of. So the next generation that's starting to get interested in all the things they see me doing. Hey, Uncle Raptor, what's this giant spiky thing? And I can tell them, hey, this is a dragon fruit cactus. I grow a lot of different things, and I'm just now actually saved up enough money to start getting forward on a lot of these things. So I need to build a trellis for that. I really wanted to do this before. I just didn't have the funds. But building what is it called? Like an arc as a trellis. So you just walk through the trellis and you have everything growing around. So I'm just getting some cattle paneling and just like 50 feet to start off with, to figure out how to work with everything, just work within the parameters of my budget. And then once I figure out how much I need from there, I'll probably do 100 to 200 rolls, or 100 rolls from there. And yeah, I'll be planning not just perennials. Like I have a passion fruit that I actually ordered from Baker Creek. They're doing a live plant sale, by the way. Everyone get into that. They have free shipping, but they raised the price. And just
our vegetable seeds are ran through Baker Creek.
Yeah, heirlooms. Heirlooms are great. If you're just starting off, maybe start off with not heirlooms, but have that too. There's no reason you can't have both. I like heirlooms because that's generational. Just like we were talking about, this was saved on farms. Stuff. Yeah. It's very unique. It's tomatoes that are not seen anymore. Mm-hmm. Purple tomatoes, orange, yellow tomatoes.
Anthocyanins.
Carrots too.
Yeah.
You know how red is on those.
Purple and black carrots. Yeah, I'm super interested in just.
Did you say black carrots?
Yeah.
Bro, I haven't seen one
They're
of those.
They're so purple that they're freaking opal. Yeah.
So purple. I've seen cannabis that purple as well. You know, I've seen cannabis totally that purple.
Dude, I had a ninja fruit that was like that. Yeah.
Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, it was dark like Girls Gone Wild.
Ninja fruit gets down there. Fuck yeah, man. Speaking of trees, we were just smoking burning tree that my homie grew. This is Detroit Nuggets. Dude, he's been growing this shit, man. So burning trees, East Coast sour diesel. And what was the mail on that? East Coast sour diesel, and can't recall what he said.
Dude, that logo gives me old Denver Nuggets vibes. Like the old Denver Nuggets basketball team.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, exactly.
Very Rocky Mountain High in the background, yeah.
And then there's so there's like little mountains back there. It's like the Detroit skyline, you know?
Becca, did you see Chad?
Yes.
Ooh, you're gonna have a fanny pack. You'd be so cool.
Coast sour diesel.
Make abolish fucking
sour bubble. Sorry about
jealous.
Fanny pack time.
Thanks, Kazoo. Can't wait.
It does not make me jealous to see another person picking up the fanny pack. That's like, you know,
it's like a trifecta. It's now you and Fergroli and Becca, right?
Yeah. We're growing.
Sorry guys, go ahead. I keep cutting everybody off.
No, please continue. It's just fanny pack talk.
We're just fucking off, man.
Well, if that's the case, I suppose I can cut it.
Let's have dab, guys.
Well, this flower is significant, and I'm only gonna cut in. I guess a quarter way through the conversation. Yeah, I cut in real fast. This flower is significant because when my homie found it has me pretty faded too. It's pretty good. That and or the RSO. He found it in his brother's vault. Now, when I talk about smoking flow, for example, or Granddaddy Purple, speaking of purple cannabis, this is kind of what we got me into it because we were talking about perps. That Granddaddy Purple was the only thing that helped my first patient, right? When I got into being a caregiver, I had a patient who has it's not glaucoma, but he has spasms, eye sensitivity to where his eye will close up on him. Often, while he's driving, like it's dangerous, right? And it's uncomfortable for him. And he just has this issue. Purple cannabis, for some reason, is of the few in not high potency, right? And he said there's a lot of cannabis that makes it worse. It's there's a lot of things that he can't use. He was able to work with this Granddaddy Purple, man. And fortunately, I was able to source through these guys a long time ago, man. Look at the flamethrower on her. Holy shit.
Wait, can you say Opa one time? Opa! Get the Saganaki out, baby.
I need to light this joint.
You have to blow that thing out. There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, that's every sometimes this is every time we fill this thing. But I mean it's
overfilled.
Yeah, slightly overfilled a little bit, maybe.
Okay, I'm supposed to only hold it down for like 5 seconds, and sometimes I forget to count, and then I'm like, oh, it's
is that 5 seconds?
Like
Let me get another 3. 1, 2. What? I forgot again.
Another thing I've heard is that you're supposed to run those all the way out until there's no fuel left in them before you refill them, so you extend the life on those.
Well, this thing is already trash, so I'm not gonna help it out anymore.
Throw that thing in the trash, huh? Jeez.
It works as a defense item.
I got it for like 15
bucks.
Man.
Yeah. That wasn't bad. Yeah, it was a cheap torch. Yeah.
That into Max.
So,
Thanks.
Oh,
So,
flames like
uh-huh.
Boba
Seems
Fett.
like
so we get into. Let's show the shirt back here. Yeah, sure. You gotta hook up with the shirt. I gotta talk about this a little bit, but I'll show because this has to do with all you growers out there.
Hence why the nuggets on there. That's why
nuggets.
we have
We have the nuggets. So Burning Tree was East Coast sour diesel, and dude, they had the best fucking East Coast, dude. That was my shit. My shit was their East Coast, dude. It had just had this subtle pine and gas to it that was just phenomenal, right? And so this Burning Tree is East Coast sour diesel and sour bubble. I want to say sour bubble was Bog Genetics. I think Bog Genetics does that one, and then this East Coast was a cut that, I mean, dude, Matt got himself some stuff, man. The GDP, huge dead family dude, right? So he's getting this stuff, I'm guessing, through his networking skills, however they may have gone. They have an awesome GDP. I ended up getting my hands a hold of that, and that's what I'm always talking about. I still have this fucking cut till today. Now Matt's not with us anymore. In this time of year, in fact, this weekend, every year marks the 1 year I did not get a chance to go to Hash Bash. I unfortunately was at Matt's funeral that weekend and celebrating his life, so not at Hash Bash for a good reason, a very good reason. So that year, and so I celebrate his life by doing this channel, man, doing the harm reduction side of what we talk about, making sure that people test their substances for, their doses, their whatever, making sure there's no fentanyl, most importantly, in their stash. Fentanyl tests are incredibly cheap, probably going for like $1. I've heard me say that many times. So the stash comes through, through him, and that's kind of where we are today. It's 6 years ago, 5-6 years, I can't remember at this point. It's been a minute, but anyway, his brother has come a really, really long way, and this is from his brother. And Matt's brother, I'm not going to shout out his name, give you his name, but he has Detroit Nuggets right now, and he also has Greenfish Seeds. Now they started Greenfish Seeds kind of together, and I believe that Tara Wilson has some experience growing some of his products up at
I've heard it before.
And Dankman Dan. Yeah, they're growing Gang.
That's what that was in flower when we were there.
Now, guys, I graduated with this dude. We've known each other for 20 plus years. We're really, really good friends. I ordered 2 packs of seeds. Like this is the awesome dude. I can't say that he's gonna ever do this to like anybody else. You know what I mean? I ordered.
You're just flexing.
I'm kind of flexing right now. Yeah. Well, not just like saying, hey, look, I know somebody, but like I'm saying that like don't expect this, right? Because like we're actually good friends. This Midwest sweet and sour and burnt garlic is what I ordered, which is I was chasing this East Coast sour diesel. It's not going to focus for me. Maybe if I do one of those.
Yeah, focus it on your screen first.
It's showing East Coast sour diesel and Kip. Kip is the male that he's been running. I got to do a little bit more research on his Kip. Talk to him about that one. Burning Tree and Garlic Boy is this burnt garlic is the other one.
And Burning Tree has East Coast sour diesel.
Right, and Burning Tree is what we just smoked. So East Coast sour diesel. His nickname for his brother, Burning Tree as well. There's some significance in that.
Are those cassette tapes?
Yeah. So these are cassette tapes. I haven't like actually opened one up yet. Here.
Is it an old school cassette style?
Dope, dude. Super dope. So you open this
up.
Okay,
so it slides out. Yeah.
And it's a cassette tape.
Yep.
That's cool.
All right. And it gives you a cross on it, the mother and the father. All right. It shows you actually what the mother and the father is, and it's in an old school cassette tape.
I really like that package.
It's fucking super dope, dude.
Really cool.
You didn't grow up in the 70s and 80s then. Jesus, you see that shit, you're like, ugh.
You hooked it up so fucking fat,
man.
dude. He gave me like a large stack of his lineup, and those are some unreleased packs on the sides. Guys, he doesn't just do a 10 pack. These are 20 seed packs.
Do a proper fucking sift that way. If you get 20.
Greenfishseeds.com. Okay. You can order his seeds. They're $80 a pack. $80 a pack regularly. He just had his spring sale and he was doing 50% off. I don't know if it's still live for 50% off, but if it's still live, $40 for a 20 seed pack. You do the math, and the crosses are pretty fucking good. I'm going to tell you that everything that he's got on there, especially the East Coast Sour Diesel that they're working with, they're legit. It's pretty cool, man. That's exactly why I ended up getting those 2 strains that I got, was because I'm chasing an ECSD leaner, you know? I talked to him. He was talking about, but possibly I don't want to like curse it, you know, so I'm not going to say that I have it or I'm getting it, but I might be able to potentially get that UCSD cut.
We do the Birdman hands here.
Fucking awesome.
Give me mine.
It's possible. Drew, if you're fucking listening, dude, appreciate you.
Raptor, what do you have in the garden right now?
Oh man, I had to scale back everything once I figured out that this semester was a no-go, but I do have some. I was working on one of Irie Genetics stuff. Oh, man, I can't believe it's slipping my mind. Freaking right here too. Scarlet Begonias by Scarlet Begonias. I already had it going. I got a pack from him and realized like, oh yeah, he's not going to be running this anymore. I was listening to his show and decided to just hit him up like, hey, do you have another one of those? So yeah, I'm running that right now. A cross that just happened to be made. It was one of those seeds. Is Blue City Diesel by Blueberry Skunk is the mother, and then the father was another Irie, I think.
Blueberry Skunk used to be one of my favorite smokes probably 10, 12 years ago, man.
Oh, dude, I got that the one of the parents from my friend Cannabis Organum, and he gave me seeds, and it was so good. And I'm kicking myself because I haven't looked at any of this stuff for a while. But yeah, I have it crossed up with some Irie Genetics as well, and it came out so much better. I really did like it. Oh my gosh, I still can't believe I can't remember it. But yeah, it's so good. I'm getting that blueberry in there, and the Blue City Diesel is exactly like it is named so perfectly, because I'm getting that a little bit of everything, that fuel and that blueberry, so it's fruity and gassy. I grew up on the West Coast, so I like gassy stuff, but it's I like fruity stuff too. It's really nice, because one of my favorites though that has nothing to do with that is just haze. The hazes for sure, just love that shit,
dude. Hazes for daisies, that's what it is.
Yeah, I really like that. And
what's out of the hazes that you've been able to smoke, not, you don't have to say cultivated, but smoked, what is some of your favorite hazes that you've been able to try?
Purple haze, just always super good. And what did I Brothers Grimm seeds. Mm-hmm. He likes working with some hazes, so that's my favorite that I've cultivated. I have it's cool that you mentioned ninja fruit before.
Yeah,
because I've grown that too, and I found out that has a haze background as well.
Yeah, that's a cross between grapefruit haze and grape ape.
Yeah, it really liked it. It just didn't hit my palate at the time, so I haven't grown it in a while. It'd be nice to grow it again. and really give it a better grow, because I cultivated that when I was just starting to get familiar with cannabis. And the first my first grow that I ever did, it didn't have enough airflow. My HVAC wasn't on point. Like I didn't even have that set up. I just had it open, open flaps. And yeah, that got bud rot. Like that. It was not okay. I had to throw away like 2/3 of it, but the stuff that was okay, oof, it was so good. Yeah. And that's what kept me going. Luckily, I didn't give up. And I'm glad I did. That's a part of the reason why I started doing, agreeing to come on to shows, is people shouldn't have to feel, going back to like, hey, scale back. Like, it's okay if you mess up.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's going to happen, because unless you just get super, super lucky where your environment never fluctuates, your power never shuts off, you never have a driver burnout, you've never had a float valve go, you've never been called away for a week, you've never had somebody visit the grow that had some funky shit on them that infected your plants. There's like a million ways that this shit can go wrong. The thing is what separates a grower from a quitter is a grower keeps growing. You know what I mean? Because I mean, how many people, if you go to a grow store, well, probably not anymore, but it used to be, if you go to a grow store, they always have like a little tiny used section in there for people that would come in, do it, spend a fucking boatload of money, come in with wheelbarrows full of money to try to buy shit. And then it doesn't work out right. And they're coming back trying to sell things. And, so 1 or 2 failed grows and people give up.
I had to kill probably 100 fish to become the fish expert I am today. I mean, you gotta learn from your failures.
It's gonna happen.
Sure.
And like I said, I was lucky enough to learn the answers.
Fish execution. Sorry, guys. Abolish. Pulled me into it with it. Sorry.
Fish aside.
Yeah.
Yeah. With any hobby, things are going to happen. You're learning. And that's what I wanted to start telling people, like, hey, I mess up. Everyone messes up. It just happens. And the best thing you can do is just learn from that. Just say like, hey, that was a loss. That was a lesson learned.
You know what the one that got me was years ago, and my plants were doing fantastic, and I had like a 5x8 little grow box I had going, and I had plants wall to wall. The shit was booming, and I walked in one day, and it looked like there was powdered donuts on my fucking plant, and I said, I know what that is. But see, the problem is this is at a time when, if you really were big into the YouTube video community on, trying to do plant diagnosis and shit, OGs will tell you there used to be a humongous fucking issue where if you had a plant that had powdery mildew, you were basically shunned and shamed into destroying those genetics, because it was thought to be that it was systemic. People are like, oh no, you can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. It's in the plant's genes itself. You can't get rid of it. You're just going to have to kill it. So, under the bad advice of somebody else, it's not 1,000 fish, but I mean, I lost my medicine that way. I grew a grapefruit diesel for like 3.5, 4 years. That was like just enough painkiller and just enough kick in the ass that it was like great for me when I was still working a lot of hours and things like that. And so, like I said, when I walked into the room and I seen powdered donuts on my fucking shit, man, I reached out to some friends and I went online, and the verdict was kill it. So, I know that I am not the only person that has happened to. So
still kind of live by that. If I see powdery mildew on a new genetic, that fucker's dead. Not messing with the weak.
Well, if you know that you've got your environment already dialed in and all your numbers are good, and you've ran 18 different other genetics through there, the thing is you can be even fussier with your environment, and you can take a couple of grows to figure out what that was. If there wasn't a mistake, maybe there was like a leak or something, who knows? But at the same time, you go, is this medicine or money that I need to hold on to that I can't get someplace else? And the thing is, these days with 12,000 different fucking seed genetics and, half again as many breeders, there's really no reason to waste time on that. It's really good to see those go, because you have to think about it as those leave the fucking the breeding pool. The likelihood of that being passed on to successive generations is decreased.
Yeah, if you have the space, for sure. I started off, you know, everyone told me like, hey, you need to save cuts, and I was just like, I didn't have the space to even do that. So what I just did was have the same mentality of like, man, there's so much to grow and so much that I haven't tried. I'm just gonna just keep popping seeds. And I've been doing that for a couple of years. And it's only until recently, when I got interested in making my own seeds to not necessarily sell to people, but to have a backup of that. And I started meeting more and more people that weren't in a situation to afford $100 packs and everything like that. So whenever I meet someone new, I figure out like if they're interested in growing, and if they are, I'll just, you know, just here's 10 seeds, whatever. You know, I have so many of them, and it's okay if they're not perfect. They just need to learn something. And if those are perfect to learn on, because if they mess it up, boom, I'll just hand you more seeds if you need it, and make your mistakes there.
Make your mistakes. Just keep going.
It's gonna happen.
That's why I like giving people seeds. You know, when I grow stuff, I'm not a breeder. You know, I don't want to charge for seeds.
But think of how many of those green rooms that you gave away. The blueberries, the granddaddy purple, and the grape apes. Yeah,
still have plenty more. Still have plenty to give away. I plan on bringing a bunch of those actually out to Hash Bash with me still. I'm thinking about getting a male off of the blueberry green room. I'm interested in that cross. It's a DJ Short blueberry, and the male is a
Otto, OTTO.
OTTO. Yeah, green room is Otto and Otto, or Otto and I think it's Otto and Otto. So it's basically back cross Otto.
We've talked about this a few times, so we've got our stories straight now. We remember
OTTO. But it's high CBD. It's low THC.
You know what I think of, Red, when you say that? Instead of just saying OTTO, I always think of the bus driver from The Simpsons, Otto.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Love it.
Speaking of
Kingfisher
males,
says he's got some GMP green room.
I'm sexing them right now, but we might have some pollen for Durban Poison and peanut butter Wonka bars. It's peanut butter breath times Wonka bars. I'm gonna pass that around to the crew.
Is this two different sets of pollen, or is it pollen?
Yeah.
Two different sets.
I got the Durban from Spartan, and I got the peanut butter Wonka bars from him too. That's Midnight Roots.
Midnight Roots, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of their strains.
Durban's what this burning tree really reminds me of, the look of it. Not the smell, but the look.
It's tall and lengthy, and it was really slow growing on me, so I'm thinking it's going to be a male, but we'll see.
Took a little pollen off of that too.
Let's talk about the other side of growing. Let's not talk about cannabis. Let's talk about mushrooms.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes when you're in chat, man, and you throw out some of these curveballs from left field, or even honestly, man, like
that's what we're trying to cover.
Going on over a year and a half, I don't know, a couple years now. We've been back and forth and on a few live shows together. And dude, some of the really, really cool mycology stuff that you know, come to conversation with is far out, man. Gosh, since you like simplicity, since you like simplifying, I was going to ask you, what could you simplify? What would you want to simplify about the
cultivation?
But like, you know, when people are learning about mushroom cultivation and they're, you know, taking in all these resources, right, and all these bits of information, and they're hearing all these technical terms and stuff like that, what's your bit of advice that would be to simplify the hard stuff?
You know, there's so much actual good information on YouTube that's been building up that I've checked out. You just have to go to certain channels that really get into a little more. I found really easy ones, and I found more difficult ones that get more into the technical side. So I'll say try to find those channels when you can. I really like Mossy Creek mushrooms. Shout out to their channel. Sometimes I'm in their chat just listening, and they've recently been starting to do some podcasts as well, just like how we're doing with cannabis. They're starting to do with mushrooms, which is really fucking cool to see. Just like, all right, cool, you know, we're all like minds as well. And when you mention cannabis in there, like, yeah, there's not even a flinch in there, so it feels more at home. But to simplify it even more, if you can, if you're able to read, I realize that there's people that have learning difficulties as well. Try to get into books that are, I like using this program, text to speech, on my phone. It's actually gone off in some of the lives that I do, and I'm just, oh shit, shut the fuck up. If you can incorporate that and start learning from like Paul Stamets books and books like Radical Mycology and Trad Cotter's Organic Mushroom Farming and Mycoremediation. Those are the books that I say for sure go to. I can try to simplify it, but they do such a good job of like, hey, here's diagrams of the life cycle of fungi. You know, so just start off with that. It's okay if you don't know the terms. Just if you can remember to write things down and take notes, that's going to help you in the long run. Kind of just treat it like a class. You know, it's you're learning, and it's okay. It's okay that you don't know those complicated words. It's going to come up. It's the study of fungi. There's going to be more technical terms in there. But that's why I say, luckily, that there are YouTube channels where it actually shows you all those things as well. You don't have to read those books. So that's why I mention the YouTube channels first. One that it's not as simple, but he's really cool because he gets more on the technical side. So that's the one I really like. So once you get past the simplified part and you want to learn a little bit more advanced, Fresh from the Farm Fungi is a good one. It's a really good channel. I have to give him a shout out. He actually he's in Colorado. He's Colorado based, and he started off in another field of biotechnology, is plant tissue culture. So he was doing plant tissue culture. He was a technician in that for cannabis. And then he started to realize, hey, this goes directly into mycology as well. We're using all the same lab stuff, still is sterile. You have to do all that stuff. So yeah, I wanted to include the YouTube stuff. And then for the book stuff, I realize not everyone can read. I have that program, that app, because there's times when I'm gardening and there's times when I'm just driving to school or driving to work where I like listening to that. It's nice to get all that in. If
That's
you can,
point.
Right?
About the listening thing is, even if you don't understand these things, just keep listening to the same episode over and over and over until you get to the point where you know what he's going to say next. Eventually it will click into your mind. I am a lifelong student with probably like 28, 29 years of like total education in. Trust me, it's just repetition. Just like when you were a kid, that's how you learn. It's just through repetition and over and over and over. And eventually it will fucking kick in for you, and then everything is going to work.
Well, you'll hear one of those words referenced, you know, that you didn't understand, and then you'll hear it talked about in somewhere else, and you'll go, oh, that's what that means. Oh, now I can apply it to that. Oh shit. And you know, and then now you just put 5, 6, 7, and 8 together. I like it, man. Raptor, I also like what you said about pictures. Looking up just pictures, you know, that's huge. You know, if you think that you have contaminants, or if you think you have mycelium starting to grow. I mean, looking at pictures is one of the best ways to actually know what you have. You know?
And if you have the opportunity, look up people that grow mushrooms in your area, gourmet mushrooms. See if they offer tours and everything like that, and you'll be able to see stumps and logs getting drilled and then inoculated with wooden dowels that they are themselves inoculated. They're pre-inoculated, and then that is basically like a little seed that spreads out. Something I didn't even think of is to inoculate stumps. And I've been dealing with stumps that I've been cutting down trees. Like, how the fuck do I break this down faster? And hey, guess what fungi do perfectly? They break down lignin and cellulose like no other.
When I saw the dowels, like shiitake dowels, like genius. Oh, of course, you just inoculate a bag of dowels, and then take those dowels and inoculate a larger dowel, which would be a log, a fresh log. Yeah.
Drill a hole and tamp that shit in there.
Tap that sucker in there, man, and seal it with some wax. And
there's been some speculation that I've heard in using wax. There's people that are like, it works for them to not do it. So they're like, oh, if I don't need to have this extra expense and do even more work, because the people I've been talking to, they're doing this as a business. They need to do like 20, 50 logs in an hour. Sure. And that per person. And then they hire different people, and then that's how they scale up. Just so you guys know, I've taken a couple courses with Cornell Small Farms, and it's just outdoor mushroom cultivation and indoor mushroom cultivation. And I gotta shout them out. Once you sign up for one of their courses, you have access to their future courses whenever they teach it again in the next year. You could just have it keep going, and they have no problem with you still interacting with the chat. I think it's called Teachable. It's like its own little forum where you could talk to all the students, and it's really cool. So shout out to Cornell Small Farms. They're doing great work on the agriculture side. And I also have a passion for agriculture. I actually have one of my certifications is in urban farming. So that's, I like that because it goes into what I'm looking to expand onto.
And vertical farming.
Yeah. That's what I actually like about shiitake, using shiitake logs too.
Yeah, because it's not just one plug per log. Yeah.
You could, there's different methods of actually doing it, and it's so cool. You could do a teepee style where you're having them lean up against each other.
Oh, I haven't seen one like that yet.
Yeah. Or you could do those old like straight up Lincoln logs, man, and you could stack them up like in squares. Yeah, exactly, vertically up, and it's really cool. Or you could just have one log going for you if you wanted to grow it at home. Like there's
that's
no
all
problem.
I want, man. It's just one log. I need to source. I have two big ass pine trees, so I can't source any branches. What mushrooms can I grow on pine? Is there anything I can grow on pine?
Pine is pretty
super
sappy.
Super soft and sappy.
Yeah, sappy, and it's a softwood. I'm sure you guys got some oaks up there. If you
we definitely have oaks. Yes,
if you can find an arborist
plot, but.
Brett, I have a 300-foot oak tree or some big tall, well, probably 100 feet tall fucking oak tree.
I'm going to come prune it for you.
No, all you got to do is come by, and well, you have that fancy car. We don't want to throw just oak logs in the back of it, but there's a bunch that are already cut up nicely.
I'll come with the trailer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So they got to be somewhat fresh.
They are just from last summer.
You beat me to it, man.
Last summer.
I wanted to just give a warning, like, hey, don't think you could just cut something down and keep it for a year and I mean, you could still inoculate it if you want to break it down because you don't want a fucking stump, just going. So it's not going to give you the best results, but it can still be done. All of this stuff. So
Skilbo's last summer logs would not work.
They would work,
Fascinating.
but not give you the yields that are worth all the time and investment when you could just pay like whatever to an arborist to get something fresh, and you'll get something really good. I would recommend, if you're just trying to break that material down, go for it. I got stuff in my backyard that's not fresh at all. I got wood chips that are a couple years old. I got branches that I've been cutting down from eucalyptus and all this stuff. It's dried up enough for me to be like, okay, I could probably use that as a substrate, you know, but that's not the main substrate I'll be doing. I'll be doing steps of inoculating upwards.
Is it because it's a better it's because it's a better food source, or because that's like the first decomposer to get there, and you know it takes over for the fresh wood to be better?
It's already been broken down as well too, and the moisture as well. You know,
I was thinking the moisture.
Yeah, it needs, it's a couple different things. But yeah, it's already started the decomposition process. So like you were saying, it's not the first thing that was there. It might have not, we have to understand microbes in general. There's so many different species that will go in. That's why we have to, the best practice to do is to sterilize what you can. And you introduce that fungi as the first thing. And even though, even if it does get contaminated or it's exposed, people are growing shiitakes outdoors. It's going to happen, but it needs to be established first.
I think one of the main things we're trying to do simplistics, right? And trying to simplify understanding for people. One of the biggest things is, you know, a lot of us come from the cannabis side of things. And so we understand that cannabis is a remediator. And so we have to be careful because, you know, if there's any kind of contaminants in the soil, like heavy metals and shit like that, that it'll pull it up and can be contained within the plant. Now, talk to me about mushrooms and what they do in the sense of remediating. They almost like eat shit. Like I seen something on Reddit where they were saying that they have found a species of mushrooms that they can use to actually get rid of plastic now.
Oil,
just fucking insane. Yeah, petroleum.
Isn't it nuclear waste now too, or is that just bacteria?
Yeah, they can for sure break down nuclear radioactive sites. They can start making it a little more balanced and everything. And same thing with other compounds like, oh my gosh, like petroleum. I'm glad you said that. If there is an oil spill, the reason that it's used is that Paul Stamets famously has been working with like I think the Gulf of Mexico, that oil spill that happened. I think he was
the Gulf
involved.
of Valdez, BP.
Yeah. I think he was involved. His fungi perfecti company was involved with remediating that site. They can actually break down the carbon into simpler forms. Like they can break apart the actual harmful aspects of it. It's really cool. I really like that it can be done. And I think that it's the answer to a lot of polluted sites, and in a couple of different ways. If anyone's interested in like learning about any of this, I highly recommend Peter McCoy's Radical Mycology. He actually has a company, the author Peter McCoy has the company, is involved with a company that's just strictly about mycoremediation. So he's heavily invested in it. And he actually talks about it in the book. And one of the best species to use is a reishi. And he described making mycelial blocks of reishi and putting that in the soil, and then that's going to be a biofilter. So any
man.
Yeah.
So what kind of like radius would a block of reishi mycelium take care of? Is this like a it's gonna take it like every 12 feet. You put one of these things and grid them out.
The fact that it does is what matters.
Well, no, I'm wondering like how would you use this for remediating? Like,
You're asking how much do you need to like
well,
figure
if the
out like an
information,
acreage.
well, I guess if the information
how much do we need for
isn't
Chernobyl,
there,
right?
Yeah, well, yeah, something like that, I suppose. But if the information isn't there, then I suppose that's nothing more than just math.
Yeah, he might have talked about it, and I might have missed it, but I'm not sure the answer.
Is
so I would have to look it up.
So is it something that could potentially be scalable to clean up a large mass like Chernobyl size event? Like,
yeah, the thing there is just it has to take time as well, and nature's gotta it's so funny because in Chernobyl, I believe that they found lichen that are doing that already on site.
Yeah, man.
So it's funny how we're talking about, oh, what do we introduce to fix the fucking problem that we introduced?
Right.
And it's just like, well, let's observe what's already here. And unfortunately, like you can't have that luxury of thought when you're dealing with a huge environmental disaster. So I get where people are coming from. What can we do? You know, but yeah, it's cool to see that there's actual stuff already there, taking care of it. Yeah, I really have been getting more fascinated with lichens this last year, just learning more about them, because it's not just one species, it's like three species.
I feel like I have to make the bad joke, which is we're talking about lichens, which is LICHENS, not LY.
Werewolves.
Yes, Red. Yes.
I'm over here going,
Red, what was that dude's name?
Not werewolves.
I got a question for you, Red.
Not werewolves.
I'm thinking about, because I'm high over here, and I'm thinking about these logs and shit that I got out there. What was that dude's name that we met that was from New York? That was doing, he was walking through the field with like the milk jug, and he put a couple of holes in the top of it, and he had spores in there, and he was just shaking them all over through the whole field.
That was FLF. That was
it's his dude.
Finger Lakes
finest friend.
Oh, his buddy.
Yeah.
Salted Mushies.
Shout out to Salted Mushies. So yeah, he was showing this on a like a quick live. He was just walking through and just shaking all those over there. And I'm thinking to myself, man, you know, if you want this remediation, just walking around and just seeing how many mushrooms you could just fucking get to just take something over.
Johnny Appleseed, man.
Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty interesting. I'm pretty sure.
How about Marky Mushroom Cap?
Yeah. It's funny that you guys actually mentioned this, because Paul Stamets actually talked about, probably on Rogan or something. He's had this conversation a couple times, where when he was younger, probably when he was a grad student, he actually kept spores on his person, like on his clothes, to just like wave around and sporulate, you know, a plane. And then all those people would become vessels for them to come off on. So yeah, it's cool. That's awesome. But I actually recently saw a post from, shout out to North American Myco, that association. I'm not a part of them, but I am part of my local two mycological societies, one up in LA and one down in San Diego. I believe they work together with North American Myco. But this post, if you go to their Instagram, he's actually spraying with a fire hose inoculated liquid culture. So he's spraying that on a field. So just keep this in mind. It's all scalable to whatever you want.
Sure.
Now I'm seeing Stone Cold with the beer truck and spraying it all over the whole fucking the wrestling ring and shit, man.
Yeah. That's one of the things that excited me most about mycology, is that first off, it can be done with very little money. And while there is, you have to learn the basics, but once you got that over with, man, you can basically hit the ground running if you really want to.
I was going to say, how would you start? Like, we've had people in chat say that they would love to cultivate, but they absolutely don't know where to start. They don't know, like, do I go buy a grow kit? Do I buy, like a Midwest grow bag? Do I turn around and source like some Uncle Ben's rice and go that route? Should I go to another website that has this, that has that? Here's the thing we know about our little niche fucking hobbies is that everybody has something to fucking sell me, man. Yeah. That's just what they exist for, is to sell shit, So what should I be doing to start?
Yeah, there are a lot of videos that exist to sell.
Definitely. It's all on your budget and how curious you are. I have a low budget and I'm super curious. So I went from ground up. I'm going to learn how to sterilize my own grains. I'm going to learn how to buy some liquid culture and then inoculate those grains into I use a quart jar, and that quart jar has a lid on it that has an free air exchange port that is filtered, and then it has an injection port. So these are injection lids.
Are these DIY lids, or are they something you sourced?
Yeah, I actually DIY everything. I haven't bought anything but the liquid culture. Okay. Now, if you have $20 and you're interested and you're not as interested to get a pressure cooker, then definitely go with the kits. That's where I would just say go with the kits first in general, but I didn't do that. So I want to let people know it's okay if you're curious and you want to do everything DIY. That's how I did it. That's the cheapest way.
So when you say that you use like the quart jars and stuff, is that where you're cultivating at? Is inside the jars themselves?
So that is the spawn. I'm creating spawn.
Okay.
Spawn is inoculated either grains, or we were talking about wooden dowels, so you can use wood chips. It just depends on the species that you're trying to grow. Some are wood lovers, and then others just break down more broken down material. So there's different niches for all of these different species.
What would you need if you were trying to grow psilocybes?
Yeah, so there's cubensis, and then there's cyanescens.
Let's say cubensis. Let's go
Cubensis.
basic. Let's go basic.
Yeah, so the basic cubensis, I just went with grains. I bought millet, and you can actually use whatever grain you want. Just like you mentioned, Uncle Ben's tech, they're using rice. Rice is a grain. You can totally do that, no problem. And to almost step back a little bit. So when we're talking about mycoremediation, I really want to, preach caution here with it. There's such good remediators that I caution using anything that's not organic.
As your starting base, that makes a really good point right there, man. Yeah. Well, I have a question. I have really had good luck fucking around with malted barley, not for growing mushrooms, but for growing mycelium for, I love it for the enzymes, for the organic growing. And I wonder, could I do something with like malted barley and some kind of manure source and something else and get something going?
Yeah, you totally can. I would say that you could probably go even cheaper and just get a basic grain. Find your local a miller.
I got a beer brewer in town.
Yeah. So that would work great. I mean, it's totally possible. If that's the best source you have, then do it.
Just whatever you do, just do it, right?
Yeah, it can be any grain, and I would think that I haven't tried any malted grains before in my system, but knowing what I do about sprouted seeds is that they're releasing all of that already. They're releasing all their nutrients, and they have it available right away. So it's funny that you actually mentioned malted barley, because in my agar I use malt. I use
Like
that's
malted
one.
powder.
Yeah, yeah, like you can get it at one of those brewery supply shops, and that's exactly what I do. I support. It's called O'Shea Brewing down in Southern California. So if anyone's listening that's in the area, go fucking support them. That's where I go to. I literally just
We need a
picked up.
Raptor Grow discount code for them, man. That's what we need. They give you a
Yeah,
kickback on
you know, the first time I got like 10, 20 pounds of barley and rice hulls,
it. Like,
they
what
were
the fuck is
like,
this kid doing, man?
what do you need this for? Because the
Right.
people that we're selling it to only get a pound. I'm like, oh, well, I use it to grow.
I bought 10 pounds of fucking malted barley myself.
Yeah, I always keep that around and just sprinkle it around like at least once a month. Like, come on, it's so inexpensive, and it's perfect. I believe it has some phosphorus in it as well, so bear that in mind. If you time it out, you can use that as a replacement to feeding some phosphorus.
I loved it because when I mixed it with like my leaf litter and shit like that, and I used that as my top dress, I'd come through every week. I would hit it with earthworm castings and then some cracked malted barley. Just nice little dusting of that, and get your water in. You come back through and you start seeing that mycelium growth right away. Just, man, everything just seems like it's firing on all cylinders. So going back to these mushrooms, okay, so we can grow them in like little small totes, like maybe like a shoebox size tote. Is that what could work?
Sure. So first step is, I'll try to going back to the simplifying. Get some liquid culture is the most available thing that most people are going to have access to. Get some liquid culture.
Farms through Little Shop of Spores link in the chat. No affiliation to us, but
what is a liquid culture, guys?
Sure. Actually, you want to cover this, Abolish, because you're making some.
No, I don't. That was something that I was just talking about in chat. Is I spend a little bit to not have to make things and to guarantee a little bit of success. Like, I trust Little Shop of Spores because every time I've ordered from them, I've got high quality, fast acting spores. It's good stuff.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'd rather do that than try to make my own right now.
Yeah. So first off, no one can make liquid culture without a source. You're gonna need the mycelium in one form or another. When I say liquid culture, there's almost like there's little pieces of mycelium in this nutrient solution, nutrified solution. So it's gonna have some carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, which is just in sugars. So you got some sugars in there. I have been looking into a malt based liquid culture, but you can use honey. You can just use table sugar. It's very simple.
See, I thought liquid culture was a spore syringe.
So there's spore syringes, and then there's liquid culture. So you can make more. You could basically make an exact clone of one mushroom. Let's say you have this, superb mushroom, and then you could actually just like stab it with a sterile syringe. I'm getting into super technical, but
no, this isn't super technical at all. This is making perfect sense.
Yeah. So you just get that tissue, and then you can. Yeah. And it's in there. It's in the actual syringe itself, and you should have a solution of just like water in there, and you can suck it up. Yeah,
That
distilled
sounds
water.
way
Okay.
more sterile than the way I've tried to like clone mushrooms, where I'll take a scalpel and cut out
And
a
then do
little
the
piece of
agar.
the interior meat, yeah, and put it on
Yeah,
agar.
yeah.
You
But
could do
that's not,
both.
you can get contamination a little easy. Like I just feel like if you put a needle in there, a sterile needle, and inject it out, that would be a lot cleaner.
Yeah, it's everything can be super clean, but everything has its drawbacks. So if you just open that up and you're getting in there first, I would say, just like you were saying with the agar, open it up and stab at that inner tissue. But
Not the
if you're in
top.
a, yeah, I mean, if you're in a situation where uh you can get away with it, but the safest route I that I would recommend is tear it open and stab at that inner tissue. And then from there, you just put it into that same nutrient solution I mentioned. You can use honey, you can sugar. I mentioned malt because it has sugar in it, and it's nice too because it has some extra nutrients as well. So you got that in there. Some people even put a little pinch of gypsum in their liquid culture.
Agriculture. Okay.
Yeah, but I prefer to put my gypsum in the next stage, which is inoculating the grain itself. I haven't worked with inoculating wood yet, so that's going to be cool. That's something I need to get into. Once
Which
you
would be
get,
like a sawdust bag or something like that.
yeah, you could use sawdust,
Or the
preferably.
wooden dowels even.
But yeah, the wooden dowels are cool because those are actually pasteurized.
Okay.
So that's all taken care of and actually done for you. But I would still go about pressure cooking them and sterilize, making sure that they're sterile.
Gotcha.
So from there, you expand onto some substrate. So the substrate can be the golden standard that I've seen for cubensis is coconut core. So that the outer shell that has all these fibers, that's an agricultural waste byproduct. That lends really well. You can also use compost. Something that we have a lot of here in California are palms. So I want to start experimenting with that. I mentioned that so that if someone is in my area or whatever like that, they can go on with that experiment too. I don't want to gatekeep, dude. I try to put as much on the table as possible.
Let's all work together.
Yeah, it's gonna go by faster, and I can't do everything. Like fuck, man. I go to
I can only do what I
school.
can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying like palm compost?
Yeah. So I
Palm
would
compost?
Do you mean the fronds themselves, like
like
the leaves?
if you can,
Leaves,
yeah. So
yeah.
mulch down the leaves.
Mm.
I'm sure that if you put it on some like the whole leaves, man. So the thing with
Run it through
palms
a chipper.
are that they're grasses, they're not trees.
Palms are
it's-
grasses.
Yeah, they're more closely related to grasses.
Interesting.
So when people say, "Oh, palm trees," it's more of a grass. But yeah, I could see where people say
Wow.
trees because I said that too. But it's more cellulose than lignins.
Hmm.
So what's a tree? A tree is more lignins than cellulose, but it still has both. And grasses actually have more cellulose than lignins. So, yeah, that's just I just mentioned that like little sidebar. So if anyone's dealing with palms, well, guess what? Try to do
palms.
that. Yeah, they're super invasive. I have to take care of like 2 or 3 that are in my property right now. But yeah, use you can use compost. You can use coconut core. You can use.
Can you use ProMix, like peat moss?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people that grow cannabis may already have either the cocoa or the ProMix laying around. Okay, so then what are we going to add to it besides that base there?
Yeah, I would add some gypsum like I was mentioning before, man, because there's different things that you can add, and it gets a little more like recipes, like the whole soil recipe. It's very similar to that, but I wouldn't recommend adding more than just like some gypsum, and where you're getting the actual nutrients are from those grains from the step before. So that's coming in, and then that's actually expanding on to this substrate, this mushroom mix, and they don't need that much nutrients. They don't. Think about how funguses work in the forest. Okay, they're breaking down materials. The only reason I say to add in a little bit of gypsum is because coconut coir is super sterile. There's nothing in there. You know, to add a little bit of minerals, that's going to help out the mushrooms. And most of that other energy is, like I said, it's coming from the grains.
So when you're cultivating inside or indoors, what is actually making your cake gas out, say from it getting contaminated, or say you just had continuously perfect run? What stops the mushroom from continuously fruiting if it's getting that much nutrition from the core and that gypsum?
So it doesn't just what's so cool about mushrooms, about growing mushrooms, is that you don't just, it's not like cannabis where like, oh, I just grew this and chop and we're done. You know, now we got to cure it. No, you're going to get, if you did everything well, up to 3 flushes. Now a flush, it's probably a new word for people. It just means new growth. Okay. And then that signifies that I'm going to harvest from there. So you can get up to 3 harvests. I've seen and heard of up to 5, you know, certain people working with certain substrates. Some people like to put more nutrients in their substrate so they can get a little bit more. I really don't see the point. I would rather just make more substrate, you know, divide that up, and I can, you know, if something bad happens, I'm not relying on just that one. And I didn't put as much money into that.
So, I have a
question.
question.
I only got let's say if I only got 5 flushes or whatever out of a cake, I'd be disappointed, honestly. Like
I could definitely go more. But what happens there, the after the 3rd one or so, you're gonna see reduction in yields. So you will get more and more flushes, but to what extent is that a good thing? You know, if you're someone that's just growing a small amount, like, hey, that's great. Let it keep flushing, let it keep going. I don't care. You know, all you have to do is just make sure that the environment is correct with humidity and that you're not introducing any contaminations. But once the spawn has gone through the substrate itself and inoculated everything there, it's much less prone to contamination. But I've noticed that contamination will occur if you wait long enough. You know, as the mycelium is getting weaker and weaker and using up all that material, if you're not introducing it to, you could always scale it up to like, okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to inoculate some grains from there. And because that you liked whatever happened there, or what I see a lot of people doing is taking their used up substrate and just putting it outside, and it's like, hey, if it grows, it grows. But I recommend to people that are doing that, hey, you're still growing it, so make sure that you're putting in the right amount of materials. If you really wanted to do what you wanted to do, put the right amount of materials, add some compost, give it something to inoculate and expand. This is the coolest part about mycology. You can start from a couple milliliters of inoculated, nutrified water, And then you could have up to like thousands of pounds of growing
So
mushrooms.
we have a question from chat, and it's one that I wanted to ask as well when there was a break. Is we say that we can get multiple flushes. Now, in the past, I've heard, and maybe you can dispel this if it is a myth, and maybe we don't know because we can't actually test these things. But other than the size difference between the flushes as the energy begins to dissipate, how about as far as potency of the mushroom as the flush goes on? In other words, do we think that the first would be the strongest and the fifth would be the weakest, just as like a general thing, or don't have enough information to know?
I don't have that information, but there
There's
are
anecdotal
groups,
evidence. Yeah.
yeah, there are groups that are popping up, like in Oakland, there's just like how we have cannabis festivals, there's mushroom festivals, and there's psychedelic, to be more specific too. And what happened, I believe, last year, is at one of these gatherings, they actually had the facilities to be able to test things ahead of time. So they had a judging panel of like just looking at the stats and looking at the potency of everything. So if you really want to have an accurate answer to that question, you would need to actually test every single thing. So
well, but then
I
there's
don't know the
also
answer
variance
to that.
as well. Just like as we know that a plant is, you can take a bud from this part and a bud from this part and a bud from this part, and they're all three different. And then they average those together to tell you what the potency of the plant is. You could have very much the same thing where of this part of the tub and this part of the tub, and this one's a big one and this one's a small one. So, figuring out what the magic number of those would be. It's where it's nice because as we decriminalize these things, and education is going to start to come with this, and as that does, the taboo will go down, the propaganda will start to die down as well, and we can see more testing and actual numbers with this so that we can move forward with it as the science that it should be.
Yeah, it takes, it takes communities in Michigan, in Oregon, and places like California, and all those places that were the ones that had the balls to take that first step and say, no, we're not gonna put people behind bars for a non-violent
don't legislate other people's consciousness.
Yeah, they're not hurting anyone, so it's a non-violent act.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you deserve to be put with people that are literally hurting people? Now if they're
but there's laws in place that if you do stupid shit, there's laws in place for that though. So then you're going to get doubly fucked over, not just for the crime, but for also being under, as they say, the influence of some other substance. So it's Al says since it was decriminalized in Detroit, it's been statewide now, right? No, not yet. Hazel Park joined, Detroit, Ann Arbor, and is there a fourth or just the three?
Ann Arbor's supposed to be countywide. So
okay, so Washington.
Washtenaw County is supposed to kind of be covered. That includes Ypsilanti Township, and a few other cities.
But not everywhere yet. They were talking about putting it on the ballot this year, though. So they are Decriminalized Nature all this week has been talking about they will be going around and they are trying to do petitions to try to have it put on the ballot. So if you do happen to see those, or somebody who'd be interested in that, make sure that you check out their website or get a hold of them.
I'll tell you where they're going to be. The Hash Bash. Before we get out of here, guys,
well, that's where we're going to be.
We're going to go to the Hash Bash this weekend.
Yeah,
Raptor, man. I know you're a little bit far, man. I wish we would have had this conversation about 6 months ago, so you could have made plans and got stuff. Man, next year, so every year, the first Saturday of April, right, is the Hash Bash. The Hash Bash, this goes back to Free John Sinclair in the early 70s, and the Lennons were involved, and they got a bunch of Bob Seger and a whole bunch of Michigan acts and pop acts and whatever. It was a huge party that gets celebrated every year. in cannabis culture here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it's a pretty cool thing, man. So this weekend, the four of us, you know, and Raptor, maybe one of these years you'll get a chance to come on out and give it a whirl
Oh
yourself.
yeah, I've been wanting to head up to Michigan for a while, just hearing all the stories. Like, it sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful
Definitely
spot,
a good vibe, man.
And hey, man, I want to head out to the West Coast just the same. There's a ton.
I want to see those
trees
redwoods,
behind you back
man.
there. Yep, that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
reds.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you guys ever head up to California, and specifically the redwoods, let me know so I can plan a set, you know, meet up with you guys. One of my personal goals is once a year go up to the redwoods. I went last year, and my friend, she's actually been bugging me like, hey, come up to Yosemite. And yeah, I'm probably going to head up there. And we've been talking about going to the redwoods as well.
Well, there's multiple spots in the state, right? There's some that are in like the central part, and then some that are in the northern areas.
Yeah, there's even like a 45-minute drive for me in Southern California. I'm between San Diego and LA, just so everyone gets reference.
Down south. Yeah.
There's actually, they planted some redwoods, and it's just basically a demonstration site, but it's all irrigated. It's super cool, but it's cool to know that, hey, I have redwoods less than an hour from me to just look at, and they're very young. I think that the project was like 40, 60 years ago that it started up. And yeah, but it's mostly up north. It's an hour to 2 hours past San Francisco. So that would be a cool, if you guys want to check out that area too and are willing to do the drive. I drove with my friend through there, and it was just one of like, hey, we're already driving through here. Let's take an hour or two. And it was cool. I got to go over the San Francisco Bridge. I got to visit the bay, the whole bay, and have seafood there, have a little break, eat some food. It was really cool. My heart belongs in more of Northern California, but I love where I grew up too. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't grow up the way I did. And it made me realize like, there's kind of a lot of fucked up shit, going on where I live. So it
for sure
helped me like drive myself like, I'm more interested on like, I live in a very suburban area. And to have a suburban area right next to the forest, it was like such a tease. And when I first actually got to see the redwoods when I was like 9-10 years old, there's a picture of little Raptor, going like this in front of a redwood, and it's just blows my mind. It actually reminds me I should probably, the next time I'm up there, take a picture like that and do like a side by side, and maybe even do that every year from now on, and just until I'm like gray haired and like have my own little stick that's holding me up, just have a picture like that. And as my family grows, maybe invite them with me and see, hey, it started with just one person, boom, 3, 5, 9, 15. That would be a cool one. So that sounds like a good family reunion kind of a deal. But yeah, definitely, if you when you guys come over, I'm super interested in doing that. You can actually camp in the redwoods. Like, so it's gorgeous where we drove through. Man, I recommend it. If you have the ability to drive, I know things are expensive right now. Get an electric car, and plan out
get your ass out here. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So
we'll stop every cool. 400 miles for charging. Get out there in a few years.
But it's nice because I was actually talking about this with my family, because they're like, oh yeah, some people are getting used to we were talking about Teslas. It's like, yeah, every 300 miles or whatever, the people are saying, oh, I have to get used to stopping. And it's like, well, for me, I would want to stop less than a couple hundred miles to just relax. And if you're actually making a trip like that, man, I was in my friend's car, and it was just a small car. I was more than happy to just stop and take breaks and switch, and I'm just like, hey, let's just relax for like 15 minutes and enjoy the fact that we're here. Yeah, I really love the redwoods. There's this avenue of the giants, so definitely have to go through that drive. You're just surrounded by all these redwoods, and it's super scenic, and you're just hitting all these grooves, and it's surreal. I actually have
that sounds like paradise.
Yeah, I still have videos on my phone of just like going through, and it's all rainy still, and you just hear the background of the car going, and I don't care. I'll listen to it on mute, just watching everything. But I like that it was raining at that time, just because that made it feel so much more alive.
Get some fog going on with that too.
Yeah, a little bit actually. Yeah, we took that trip because it was my friend's birthday, and I was like, yeah, let's just go up. It'll be a lot of fun, and that's what made me promise myself, like, hey, I don't really take vacations, so never had the money. We've always been strapped for cash in my family, and that's something I always promised myself, like, hey, just go up there once a year and clear your fucking head. You know, I'm in a rare opportunity to actually be within, yeah, it's a couple hours, but it's drivable.
You know what, man? Do it while you're young, you know, because as you get older, you find that you have more and more entanglements. Things don't line up the way that they used to be. So as opportunities present themselves, man, make the fucking most of it. Definitely go out and do cool shit. Stay tapped in with nature. And I think that's what it is being able to unplug from the cacophony of fucking, you know, common culture, and then being able to tap back into the primacy of you know, as I keep looking at the picture behind you, even though it's, you know, it's just a picture, but it's like, fuck, dude, that's just perfect.
I took this picture because of that, where I was just like, wait, just fucking stop. And I tried to not take pictures personally, but it was like, hey, I'm in a rare moment where I could just totally take a picture and remember this. So I wanted to make sure I remembered all that. And also too, in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, this would be a cool background to have. Yeah.
I think the only thing that's missing right there is you need like that Northern California Sasquatch to come busting through, like, hey, Kool-Aid man, you know.
Yeah, there it needs to be like on a video loop.
Yeah, just a loop that comes through like every 60 seconds. Yeah, just you know,
walking
kind of moves the shit around a little bit, you know. Like, what the fuck?
Arms.
Yeah, I really recommend. That's, regardless of where you are in the world, that's something I consider like a natural wonder, or this forest that I have a picture of behind me. It's so fucking humbling. So fucking humbling. I am amongst ancients.
Yes.
Hey, I'm not that old yet.
This panel, you might be.
Red is creeping up in age now. He just did celebrate another birthday. He gained another growth ring.
Another growth ring, dude. I did. I totally did, man. 37 of them now.
Adding more lignins every fucking year.
Super cool. It, like you, Raptor, I'm about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours from our national forest here in Michigan. One of our national forests. We have Huron National Forest to the east.
Weren't we close to that? Wasn't Luzerne by that?
Luzerne is like in the Huron National Forest. Yeah.
It was dark as fuck.
They're in Bigfoot country. Yep. The Manistee National Forest is on the west side of the state.
That's
almost
on Lake
about
Michigan,
the same,
isn't it?
about the same parallel. Yeah. And they both kind of like go almost to the halfway point, but not so.
Do you see him, Uncle Rick? Do you see it? Do you see the geography?
That was for Uncle Rick. Handage. Give us some handage. We do all of our geography.
Give him a handage
here in Michigan. Raptor, dude, I hear you, man. we don't get to get out very much. You know, we got a chance to take off and spend a weekend. You know, well, we were worked one night, and then from our farm, which is basically, you know, an hour from here, you know, that's a back and forth thing. That's Cannabis farm, you know. My parents have a little lake house about an hour from that, which I never get a chance to go to. Just incredibly busy all the time. I got a chance to go there, but we're going to Tennessee in June. Yeah. And so like that's gonna be the vacation, right? You know, aside from like maybe we can get away and go to the lake house once or twice on a weekend, maybe not if we're busy, because there's tons of events coming up on weekends that are finally getting into here.
Shout out to Dead and Company coming back in concert.
That's happening as well. There's going to be shows. There's at least a couple of shows I want to go to. Saw a couple comedians coming around into town. So I don't know, man. It always gets so busy this time of year, and I end up getting so booked up. But you have to like make time for yourself and just chill, and not like even when you think that you're like going to a concert, you think it's going to be like, oh, I'm on vacation to go to a concert. No, you have to like get there on time, drive there, pick a parking spot, fucking party your butt off, which is another fucking, you know, more.
Red,
you're on
there's
your feet,
always time to be wook-footing in the moonlight. There's always still time for that.
For me, it's fucking great, dude. For me, it's fucking great. But some people, dude, that's a stressful experience. Like, oh, we got to get there on time. You know, I don't care if I get there 60 minutes late. You know, yeah, I was totally cool with getting in line, you know, 3 songs in, whatever. So we're there, you know, I'm just vibing, whatever, it doesn't matter. But some people, man, it's a rough one. But where was I going with that? We're gonna make
concerts, vacation. Yeah.
No, I'm really not that bad. I'd stress out sometimes, but it's not too bad. Usually for me, it's like I overpack. So I'm just like stressing out about.
I see
like,
Red running around with like all kinds of fucking old timey luggage and trunk steamers and fucking trying to all jam it back into the back of that old Focus and shit, and like,
oh, that's
like just pushing down on the door and like, God, I just gonna close. Almost there.
A little bit of
just
shit
like in the car like this.
Back up.
How many heady pieces do I need? I'll just take all 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the problem is when it finally closes, you can hear something distinctly like. And it's not the car.
There goes that fucking banger, dude. Damn it. Oh yeah, too much stuff, man. It's like that's like gypsy life, because we're doing the festival fucking.
But you need one of those gypsy fucking you ever seen they're like a ribbed kind of wagon thing that the gypsies use?
Yeah,
they've got a weird fucking name.
Ribbed gypsy wagon cost 18 grand right now. Have you ever seen the fucking price of fucking trailers and campers right now, dude? It's fucking out of control, man.
A pop-up is like 14,000.
I can't even
get 1800. They're called tiny homes.
Yeah,
tiny homes are big.
You know what luxury is everybody is into like this van life shit, and they're like, oh, I'll get one of these vans and I'll put these solar panels, and you're like, bro, that Mercedes one is like $200,000. They think it's like 80. Like, no, it's $200,000 fucking dollars for this thing.
Fucking crazy, dude. Everything's tripled in price right now. I just want one for like the job. You know, it's like, fuck, dude. I needed one anyway, and it's like the timing of it is wow. Oh, I have to fucking break down and build my own out of a fucking trailer, or get a fucking flatbed trailer for.
No, what you do is you get somebody that's got one of those like old timey pop-ups that's all fucked up, and you strip it all the way down to the steel, and then you just start rebuilding shit, man. It's like not a pop-up, just make like a straight side one.
Like 20-year-old pop-ups right now are like $5,000 to $7,000.
That's fucking insane, bro. They're not worth like you couldn't. You were getting them for like $500.
That's what I mean, dude.
5-6 years ago.
Like, more than $500. It should be $500 for a pop-up, dude. That's like a legit used pop-up price.
What I always thought was cool was the school buses that were repurposed. You know that, and they just switched that up and full on hippie. It runs on French fry fucking oil, man.
Hell yeah.
French fry oil.
pull up to a fucking restaurant.
I'm really hungry, man. I'm fucking
trade some work for some motor oil,
some home
for some fuel. Hey, dude, I'll come in and change your fryers for you.
flip those 2 fryers and be on
Heck
my
yeah.
merry way.
Heck yeah.
Running through the China hat.
Yep. I'll rotate your fryers for you if you let me take that 5 gallons back to my truck.
Raptor, we're coming up on like 5 minutes left of the show, man.
Right on.
And before we do, I just want to like make sure we toss it back to you and let you have a soliloquy, man, and just speak on whatever it is that, you know, this is your captive audience moment.
Yeah. First off, just be kind. Like, fuck, I've heard so much negativity over the fucking years, over like just, and people getting spiteful over shit, you know. Why waste your fucking energy? So that's I wanted to start off with that. Humility, humbleness. Try to just remember that we're all learning, and we're lucky that we found each other, that we can all learn together as well. And don't try to take everything on yourself. You know, obviously, if you can do it yourself, do it yourself. That's my motto, because it's I've always had little access to money. So if you can do it yourself, that's often the cheaper way. But yeah, like we were talking about with getting a kit, like if you can outsource some stuff and make your life a little easier, yeah, do that. Same thing with knowledge. If you don't know something, it's okay. Not everyone was born with the knowledge that they, you know, later acquired. So do that. Have some fucking patience with people and yourself as well. Things take time. If you get frustrated, you know, just step back and reevaluate as well. Yeah, that's what I've been realizing over the years are the best things to just talk to people about. Is you don't know everything, you know. And then I often hear like a lot of know-it-all like comments, or I see stuff like that, and it's just like, well, that person didn't know that in the first place. So
yeah, don't be an asshole.
Be mindful of the way you express yourself. And I've that problem too, where sometimes I hear something that's just so like, man, I learned that years ago. Why don't you know that? It's like, well, because this is the first time they fucking heard about it. Just like how a couple years ago, that was your first time hearing about it too.
Just like in the very beginning when we started this conversation, and I told you that I had the opposite experiences of you, but we're kind of like meeting in the middle, and you know,
I learned about
trying to speak the same language. Yeah, speak the same language, man. That's what matters.
I still discover simple shit. Like why didn't I know that? Or like certain words meaning certain things. I have no references to that right now, like what I can think of from my near future experiences, but like just still happens all the time. I'm constantly learning, and I don't mean like about new things, right? I'm just constantly learning about life, about like things that I should have already learned by the time I'm 37 years old. Like what
shit's coming together though,
you know?
man.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
The pieces fall into place when they do.
Yeah. For every one of us, it's a little bit different, you know?
And then I'll just end on keep being curious. You know, we're not going to learn everything that we want to in the time that we are. So with that, try to talk to as many people as you can that might know what you want to learn. And yeah, it's okay to be whatever age and pick up something new.
Raptor,
if you're interested in it, go for it. Yeah.
Before we go, we got 2 more minutes or 1 minute left, but you didn't plug your site. You didn't talk about any of that yet, man. You're just too humble about this shit.
Yeah. Man, I've been super busy with school, so I've had to scale back everything. But I'm actually getting a little break. I got done with I'm going to 2 schools right now because that's what worked with my schedule with certain classes. So I just got done with spring break, 2/3 of a spring break, and my other third is coming up. Yeah, I'll be putting out my I got some right here. These are the injection port lids. So like I was saying before, I wish I should have realized it before when I was trying to describe what you guys were asking. These are pre-made lids. The plastic itself is meant to be autoclaved. Autoclave is just a fancy word for pressure cooker. The plastic that's used is polypropylene 5. I won't get any more technical than that, but I specify that because this won't melt under those conditions where you're trying to sterilize.
So it is reusable multiple times.
It's reusable multiple times. I'm actually going to be looking into another source. The reason it's taken so long is because I've been looking into different lids and not all of them are the right kind of plastic, or they don't work with what I have. And what I'm using on this is Micropost. Shout out to Micropost. I actually won one of their giveaways, and it was for $1,000 worth of stuff. So I got filter pads. You can see it right here. That's a filter that it's just basically a sticker that goes on there. And then up here is another hole where the injection port is. Yeah, that's going to be on the, I'm selling this all through Etsy. I haven't gotten a individual site yet. I figured Etsy is a nice step in because most people are familiar with it. I'm okay with the 10% that they take or whatever.
What's your Etsy?
Firebelly Fungi is the company's name. So go ahead, check them out. It's going to be April. I've been wanting to open it up for spring. So go ahead, check that out. In the future, I will be going into liquid culture. I'm experimenting with that right now. Just a heads up, everyone, I don't sell anything psychedelic. So if you're looking into that, I can make recommendations to other people, like Little Shop of Spores, just like Abolish mentioned before. There's other places as well. If you're looking into that, just message me and I can recommend different places. Mushrooms.com is another one if you're looking into psychedelic spores as well. That's one oldie that I've heard a lot. Like when I look at the forums, it's just a constant, like no matter what the timestamp is. But what I will be focusing on most of my actual training with like Cornell Small Farms was with gourmet mushrooms and medicinal mushrooms. So I'm actually going to be selling lion's mane, liquid cultures, reishi, some mostly oysters, because my interest in them is, man, they are awesome. There's so many different kinds of oyster mushrooms, and they can grow within so many different environments, from very cold to temperate to tropical. So that's why I want to focus on that as well. Yeah, that's basically it for now. Like I mentioned before, reishi is one that I've been wanting to get into just because it's a pharmaceutical, like it's a pharmacy within itself. It covers so many things medicinally, and I highly recommend people look up all the things that it does. If anyone's looking into using mushrooms medicinally. And lion's mane is gourmet and medicinal. So it's really cool that it fits between those two. What I like about oyster mushrooms, lion's mane mushrooms, is that they taste, it's been described as crab meat or lobster meat like.
Yeah.
So if you can get some, yeah, and you're vegan, or even if you're not vegan, you just want to have that in your diet, that's really good. And it's very good for your brain. If you take that along, going back to Paul Stamets, if you take that with anything containing psilocybin, the active compound within psilocybin, or within any psychedelic mushroom, that, and I believe a little bit of niacin, that is gonna actually heal your brain cells, and it's making more connections between the
neurogenesis.
Neurogenesis. Thank you so much. Yeah, that. If you look back on his in any of his if you just type in neurogenesis Paul Stamets, I'm sure you'll be able to get that little, there's a couple of times he talks about it, and he'll have it up on a lecture. So keep an eye out for that lecture. I actually have it saved, and I might just put it out on Instagram, just like, hey, this is where I found it. And if you want to look into it, do that. I don't really go too much into psychedelics on my Instagram. Just when I was growing my my magic truffles, that's as far as I really went with that. And then I'm going to be picking up growing all those mushrooms. But my main focus has just been with school, man. That's been taking up all my time. It literally, I'm doing all my prerequisites right now and taking that outdoor plant ID course too. So
I can't even imagine where you'll be in 5 more years, man.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna be killing it. Raptor, I definitely want to have you back, man.
Yeah, you want to come back through?
Like when this
Anytime.
Etsy drops, man, like, you know, in a few weeks when your Etsy drops, come on back and talk about all that new.
We got a lot more to go through.
I want to hear about how these liquid cultures you're gonna have. I want to hear more about this lion's mane thing. I want to talk for another 2 hours, honestly, because it sounds like we can definitely talk for another 2 hours about all this. Like,
and
dude,
that's just
like all of a
man.
sudden, all of a sudden we break out the Etsy. All of a sudden we break out all of this other stuff. I'm like, man, we
told you,
like,
bro. I told you.
We're over time and we're talking about all the good stuff.
We're 5 minutes over time. So that's sorry, guys.
It's great. And I'm like, holy shit, it's just going to bring everybody hear that. This is round 2. This is what this is a precursor for what you're going to hear in round 2. So come on back for round 2 to hear all about all that good stuff. Yeah. Is what I'm talking about.
Anytime, man. And especially, I have an interest in permaculture as well. Actually, I'm setting up a tent for, I mentioned before, the plant. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm brain farting right now. The in vitro plants. So I'm doing that where it's very sterile conditions where I'm just propagating plants. I have most of my background in that is with fungi. So it's cool to bring it back to the plants and just kind of go back and forth. So yeah, if you ever just want to talk permaculture in general, it'd be cool to just do that. I know that you are interested in all that and that you're interested in agriculture. I'm always interested in talking about that. So any of those things, I'll be in chat, but definitely would love to come back and specifically talk about mushrooms.
Like a self-sustainability homesteading type of a channel also, because I want to keep this, you know, harm reduction as much as possible. So I don't want to get too much.
I mean, a separate conversation.
I can get into, it is, but it's an important conversation that I want to have also, because like self-sustainability is huge, you know, especially now, especially like what we're talking about, you know.
How do we do that in our gardens? How do we do that in just cannabis? How do we do it with just vegetables? How do we do it with mushrooms?
I think that's all part of the polarity, though, is seeing that there's another way to do things.
Another way. I like it. Skilbo, do you have anything else for us this evening, brother?
I do. I hope to see all of you that are in chat. I hope to see you guys this Saturday at the Diag so we can do some hash bashing. Raptor, thank you so much for coming through, brother. Like I said, we're just scratching the surface here. I can't wait to have you back.
Abolish anything for this evening?
Yeah, just like Skilbo said, we'll be at Hash Bash and I will be filming. So if you want to come up and give a little shout out to the Groskies or just say what's up, you know, don't be shy. Other than that, I hope everyone's having a dank ass microdose night.
Hey guys, don't be shy. Becca, any nice little things you have this evening?
No, man. Have a good night.
No, man.
Good night, Becca. Raptor, how about you, man? Any last little words you want to wish out? Farewell to everybody.
Yeah, I basically covered everything on my like 5 minutes on the podium, but just
I didn't want to
it's
be rude.
smoke 'em
Yeah,
if you
with the-
got 'em. How about
Smoke 'em.
that? I always
I
like
always
that.
throw it back. I always throw it back. No, I really appreciate everybody for tuning in this evening, man. Raptor, most importantly, man, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And of course, the rest of the panel here. Oh man, everybody, the usual and the new faces in chat and those just finding us and tuning in and on the replay and here and there and everywhere.
Everywhere.
Please, I hope to see you all on the Diag this Saturday. Freedom,
Or
Cannabis.
Sunday on the Bro Show live at 9 p.m.
Sunday, Bro Show live at 9 p.m. and Monday for the late session at 11. All right. Cheers.
Welcome
everybody.
to the late sesh.
Late sesh.
Oh, I gotta make the screen bigger.
No, you have to see that piece. Oh,
No.
no.